So about the Odyssey, I had made a list of aspects of the movie I liked, or rather, like metaphors and story themes that relate to life that I found entertaining to muse over. I feel like most of them were addressed by other people, but there's one that I haven't really seen mentioned, and I speak about this a lot, but it's the navigation of the unknown and uncertainty. The main point of uncertainty, of course, is Odysseus's absence. And I just think it's interesting noticing how various characters in the story navigate that uncertainty. So, for one, Odysseus himself, he's uncertain of how he's going to make it back home. At some point, he's uncertain of how long he's been gone. And then he's also uncertain of what actually awaits for him back home. It's interesting to watch him wrestle with that. And then there's Odysseus's wife, who feels that uncertainty of his absence with a lot of faith and a lot of trust. Although I feel like at times it kind of wavers. You know, she certainly feels the uncertainty. But she holds on to that hope and that faith that he will make it back safe and sound. And then there's Odysseus's son. Can't think of his name. His son feels that uncertainty, that unknown, by actually going out and verifying the truth of the matter rather than sitting around hoping, wondering, waiting. And there's, dang, what's his name? What's the what's the big soldier dude? I sure you know what I'm talking about. The guy on the cover of it. The general that like leads the army into Troy. He meets his end because he filled that uncertainty of hope of what awaits him back home with a false certainty. He expected to be received almost as if he never left, in a sense. He didn't even consider that the perceptions of him and the attitudes toward him by the people that cared about him previously would change. And that's what he warns Odysseus of. Which is why when he returns home, he's like, wait, I don't know for certain what awaits me back home, and let me just be an unknown figure and scope out the truth of the matter. Let me gauge that uncertainty to see what is really there. There's also Odysseus's soldiers. They felt the uncertainty of whether they were going to make it without, as they like ran out of rations and such, and they ended up eating the cattle, which ultimately led to their demise. And there was the uncertainty of Odysseus's leadership. And Odysseus noticed that. And at one point, with the whirlpool scene, upon realizing that they would do the opposite of what he says, played into that. That connects to another thing, which I haven't necessarily seen mentioned in other takes, which I thought was a powerful little notion in there, which is it was kind of a quick little thing that was mentioned, but Odysseus basically comes to the realization I think it was speaking to Athena at the time. But essentially, that he can only be so responsible for other men's actions up to a certain point. Of course, he leads these men, and they trust his command up to a certain point, where once again he realizes that they start to waver in their conviction of his lead, and so he starts playing into that and doing the opposite to lead them wherever he wants to go. But yeah, he ends up having to confront that realization that as responsible as he wants to be for his men and lead them to their best fate, eventually he has to confront that ultimately each individual person is in control of their choices. Even if you defer your choice to another man to follow his lead, that is also your choice. Yeah. Anyways, I wanted to say something else about like the critiques about the movie. There was one particular video that I saw online that was from someone I respect and admire, but it was a very thorough criticism of the film, and it was even more so behind the film of the actual filmmaking of it and such. But they were very valid criticisms, but I just enjoy things for what they are, and all that you can get out of it is, perceiving and see how it relates to life and any insights you can glean from the story. So while there may be like technical flaws or like things they should have done better to, what you call it, to narrate the story and whatnot, the movie's made. You can use that for inspiration of something you want to make, which is a powerful insight I saw posted recently, which is like, dog, this cat. The sentiment is there's basically always going to be some difference between things other people create and the things you want to create, and that difference of where your critiques lie of like, oh, it should have been this way. Like that's your creative vision that you want implemented, and you can use that as fuel for the things you want to make. So that's why where I find the value of criticisms that you see in something. But like I said, the movie's made. There it is. The only benefit you can get from it is, the things you see through it. And whether those things are there for you or not is your personal experience. At the end of the day, there's countless things just open to interpretation. And that is the art of perception. Now, contrarily, there was someone whose synopsis of the film was really good. I think his account name is Julian himself, or Julian as himself. Very good, thorough philosophical analysis in relation to the film. And he goes a bit beyond what the film showed and more into the origins of the story and such. I would check that out if you want a good philosophical analysis of the film. Yeah, that's it.